From soldier to board gamer to YouTuber, this is Board Game Officer. Today we're going to go over Tanares Expedition's Central Sea. So basically this is the video to kind of tell you what this game is actually about and what we know up to this point. A dark corruption has risen from the depths, threatening to consume the Central Sea. Pirates and sailors alike are losing their minds, their wills bent to an unseen force. Sea monsters, once dormant, now emerge with fury, and rogue pirate bands wreak havoc unchecked. The waters you once ruled are teetering on the edge of chaos, and only the most powerful and cunning pirate can restore order. The Central Sea in Tanares is a place that is intriguing as it is unruly. Officially, it is part of the Empire, but in reality, it is a wild and chaotic region where law enforcement is practically non-existent. The Imperial Army, known as the Iron Hand Soldiers, are stretched thin. They mainly patrol a few fortresses, select areas in major cities, and some strategic points. But beyond those points, most of the territory is left unchecked and abandoned. These Iron Hand Soldiers have undergone the arcane ritual, stripping them of all emotion. They only obey orders without question. Unofficially, the Central Sea is ruled by the Parliament of the Sea, 5 pirate lords overflowing with greed and conflict, united by a single mystery. Some sea lords try to impose a bit of order, but not too much. Others revel in the chaos, seeking personal gain. With forgotten dungeons, hidden treasures, sea monsters, and bandits lurking everywhere, the Central Sea is a dangerous place, but it is brimming with opportunity for adventure. So what I want to do in this video actually is kind of go over what this game is about. I haven't seen anything out though about how to actually play this game, kind of the ins and outs. Up to this point, Rolling Solo did do a unboxing video, but that's it. So basically this is the video to kind of tell you what this game is actually about. As I don't have the game actually here, I don't know if I'll be getting one or not to review, but they did at least send me the rulebook that I did review that. So I'm going to go over the rulebook, kind of how to play real quick, all the aspects, and all the updates that they have come out with up to this date. And just to note that this is October 28th. Update number 2 did just come out just today. All right, so first off, what I want to do, let's go ahead and just look through the pre-campaign preview, or the campaign preview, just to kind of show what they have here and kind of explain anything if needs to be explained. And then I'll kind of dive deeper into the actual gameplay of the game. So we'll come down here. So they did just add this right here, free day 1. So if you back on day 1, you're going to get this, what do they call it? Sea Horror, which actually looks pretty cool. I mean, that is one giant merman beast thing. Merbeast. That is the name. It's a merbeast. I don't know if that's really the name, but that's what I'm naming it because merbeast. I mean, that's cool. So, and I think this right here is kind of one thing that's selling. A good selling point is a Tanares Expedition for $79. That is a pretty darn good price nowadays. Given, of course, this is going to be your standee version. Everything basic, no deluxe whatsoever. Very bare minimum. But playing the game for $80, not too bad. Plus shipping. Always have to remember shipping. As noted, this is dated November 19th for it to go live. I'm not sure how long it's going to be for. I know 2 weeks is kind of the average of how long they usually are up for. But it is going live on November 19th. So about 3 weeks from now. I mean, this is, if you enjoy Tanares Adventures art, you're going to love this art, right? It's very, very similar art. They're trying to base the game, or not base the game, but it's basically a Tanares Adventure Light game, but with its own unique twists and differences. So it's not just a Tanares Adventures Light, but a Tanares Adventure Light with an extra twist and changes. I read through the dev diaries, and that's kind of like what his big goal was like to make this similar to Tanares Adventures, that if you like that world, you're going to like this game, but not similar enough that it just feels like they changed 2 rules and made a new game out of it. So it was that balance that he feels like he got pretty well. Obviously, I haven't played it, so I can't say to that, but I can at least go through the rulebook and kind of what we know up to this point, which is the point of this video. So this is going to be a standalone game. right? You don't need anything of Tanares Adventures. It's all a different game. This is a game of its own. You don't need any other expansions. This is a standalone game. Unmatched fun and addictive gameplay. Those are just words, right? Like that doesn't tell you anything about the game. It just says it's a dungeon crawler. Um, Epic combination of crawler and roguelite. I do enjoy the idea of that roguelite mechanic there. Roguelite meaning as you play throughout the campaign, you're growing your character, not only in between scenarios, but also throughout the scenario, you're gaining more and more resources. That's that roguelite experience. Power up as you progress, which has to go with that roguelite aspect. Devastating combos, which we'll kind of get into that. It does seem like it got some pretty cool combos that can happen. Unveil an ancient mystery. There you go. Immersing yourself into a rich narrative. Once again, just like Tanares Adventures, it's going to have that same aspect of narrative story, essentially, but not such a big campaign book. Then you come up here to the core box, $100. I mean, this is just unheard of right now. Of a game of this size, well, I don't know about this size, but this magnitude maybe. Still only $100. I'm knock it on wood with everything. That's a pretty good price, I think, nowadays. If I could only like go back to myself like 4 or 5 years ago and be like, $100? That ain't too bad for a board game. Man, my mind would be blown. Thought I would never say $100 is not that bad. But that's kind of where we're at nowadays. Anyways, we got this big sea dragon. But this is going to be basically your main enemy, what it looks like. This big old sea dragon, which looks incredible. We got a little bit of that acrylic water in there with that boat. Like, obviously, this is a render, not the actual miniature. So that detail maybe not might not be quite there. But it is Tanares Adventures quality. So it might be pretty darn close. Here we go through the heroes here. You have Krog, Marine. A Marine would make more sense. Marine and as a pirate. That's actually a cool pirate name, Marine. Doro and Mavris. And there we have the pre, right? Not a whole lot of information going on here. Once again, kind of my point of wanting to do this video, because there's just not a lot of information out there about the game other than this little couple paragraphs here, which basically just states 1 to 4 character, dungeon crawler, roguelike mechanics. That's pretty much all that is saying. So not a whole lot going on there. Let's go ahead and look at the 2 updates, and then we'll get more into the actual gameplay here. I promise we will get to it. I just kind of wanted to go out there what's already out there, and then everything that I got from looking at the rulebook and going through that as well. So he starts off basically saying, hey, don't worry, we're still working on Odalin. We have a whole separate crew working on Odalin. Here we have Alex working on Tanares Expeditions, and I'm sure he's got some helpers too. But basically, this is basically just saying, hey, don't worry, we didn't forget about Odalin. Basically, why he's saying this is different, accessible to all players, meaning it's a much quicker to the table type game. Almost 0 setup time. It's going to be one of those book dungeons that are becoming pretty popular nowadays because I think they're awesome. They really do help with that setup time. Dynamic character growth, which we'll talk about. That's the roguelite style improvements throughout the quests and stuff, which we'll talk about. Immersive quests and narratives, exciting and diverse challenges, which we'll kind of get into all there. Now, they are saying they have the stable pledge, right? That is from GameFound, actually, but they are using that of GameFound for that stable pledge, meaning that shipping will not go a certain amount above what they say for shipping. Stretch pay is going to be available for up to 6 installments, which GameFound just came up with. Because before it was just whatever the company set for installments. That's how many installments there were going to be. But if I remember right, GameFound just came out or is coming out with that you could choose how many installments that you want. Up to 6. So this says up to 6. I think that means that they have changed that you can now choose how many installments you want, up to 6 of them. And then they did this with Tanares Adventures, which they were like right on the edge of doing it. Tanares Adventure had a 4-month guarantee, And Odalin and Tanares Expeditions has a 5-month guarantee because they were right on that 4-month mark. So I think they just gave themselves 1 more month. But basically, guaranteed doesn't mean it will be guaranteed delivered by that day. It just means if they're not by 5 months after they were supposed to deliver, then you can request 100% refund. No questions asked. So take that with that grain of salt, being like, it's not a guarantee that it will ship or not. It's just saying, hey, if we don't ship by this date, we will give you a 100% refund if requested, which I think is great still. Because there's a lot of times people, when they have to wait so long, they're like, I just want my money back. I don't even care about the game anymore. I was FOMO'd into it, right? So I think that's really cool about giving that guarantee. I think if more companies could come into that, I think they could do a lot better and gain the respect of the community, I think, because I think that's awesome. Languages is going to be German, French, Italian, Spanish, and Polish as of right now. And basically just saying thank you and onward we go. That's a cool curse pirate. Now let's go ahead to the update that was just sent out today that we went through. This basically is once again saying that the Sea Horror is going to be for free if you back within the first 24 hours on day 1. Now this talks about part of the roguelite character or mechanic, the roguelite mechanic here, called using improvement cards. Improvement cards are going to be basically cards that improve yourself, right? They're going to be cards that give you extra passive and or use abilities. And you're basically going to start off with one of these cards, and then throughout the quest and during each encounter, you're going to gain another one. Basically, you're going to end the quest with about 4 or 5 improvement cards. Then in between quests, you're going to choose one to keep on to the next quest. So each quest you're going to be building up, and then you kind of go back down, you build up, you go back down. But each quest, you're getting better improvement cards that you can get. This goes on to, where does it say it? It doesn't say it on here. But basically, you got this improvement card deck. The improvement cards are per dungeon role, which is your striker, healer, tank, and or controller. You're going to have each one of your dungeon roles has their own deck. As you go throughout the quest, you're going to be taking some out and putting new ones in. So as you go throughout, that improvement card deck is getting stronger. So even though, yes, you go back to one improvement card between each quest, that improvement card can increase in how usable, or not usable, but how beneficial and how cool it is. Basically. Then outside of that, you're going to have attack cards, which I'll get in more details here, but I just want to kind of explain. Oh, here we go. Here's where it talks about the deck building, that your improvement card deck is going to get better and better. You're going to have different equipments that you could gain and stronger attacks. So each character is going to have like 5, I think, that you could choose from. 5 attack cards. That number, take that number with a grain of salt. But basically, you're going to have a certain number of attack cards, and you could take 2 of them into each quest. And as you go throughout each quest, you're going to get stronger attack cards for your regular attack and for your ultimate attacks. And then here it goes through just more lore about the Central Seas. All right. So there we have today's Expedition Central Sea of what we know from here. Now let's go ahead and actually look at the rulebook here. So here we have the rulebook. Once again, love the art here. So in this game, you do have to play with 4 characters, and you have to have 4 different dungeon roles. Once again, the striker, healer, tank, and controller. I'm guessing there's going to be more for like stretch goals and stuff, just because I believe there's more in Tanares Adventures. Am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But I feel like there's going to be more than just those 4. Maybe with like stretch goals and stuff, but we'll see. So setting up for a counter here, you can kind of see this is the map here, right? You've got the encounter and quest text there, with the encounter and quest map right there. Once again, love all of that right then and there. Makes setup super quick and easy. All you have to do is open it up and read the text right then and there. Here is your combat roles, or combat roles, not dungeon roles. I apologize. Combat roles: striker, healer, tank, and controller. Once again, we'll see if we get more, if not, or not with the stretch goals. One thing I wanted to talk about here with the setup a little bit is one cool thing that I like about how it does this is it basically tells you in the quest setup which enemies that you might encounter. Basically meaning saying, go grab all these enemy cards, shuffle them into the deck, and then it says to spawn 2 of them, and you'll just randomly draw. One reason I like that is just because it kind of changes stuff up in between different plays, different times you go through, gives a little bit more randomness to it. Also, you can see here we got initiative cards, which basically initiative in this game is you're just going to shuffle all the initiative cards, deal it out, and that's what it's going to be for that encounter. So it's randomized, but then it stays whatever it is throughout the encounter, either the encounter or the quest, which actually let's go through that next here. So this was actually confusing. It didn't really put this out there too well, so I'll write it out here on the screen as well. But basically, so you have a campaign, right? That's the whole game. Campaign is made up of multiple quests, which I haven't seen how many quests they are planning on doing for a full campaign. But right, you got the campaign, you've got individual quests within the campaign. Then within the quest, you actually have 4 to 5 encounters. And then within each encounter, you've got some challenges. So I wanted to put it off the bat here that encounter, challenges, encounter, quest, and campaign are all very different things. So that's why I say I don't remember if the initiative stays start of combat. So probably encounter. So the initiative deck basically stays per encounter, I believe, and there's 4 to 5 encounters per quest. Now let's kind of go into a hero's turn. So what does a hero turn actually look like? So you're going to have basically 2 actions. You're going to have a move action and a prime action. Yeah, and a prime action. Move action is you've got so many movement points, which comes from your card, which I'll show here. That there shows how many movement points you have. Now, during the move action, you could use those movement points for movement. You could use 2 movement points to interact with something. You can use all of your movement points to sidestep, or you can use 4 movement points to focus. So during your move action can actually be more than just movement, because they're movement points that you can spend to do different things. Then you have your prime action. Your prime action is going to be your main attack, your ultimate attack. You can do an extra move action, or sometimes throughout the quest, you're going to have some quest-specific actions that will be determined under that, or will be used during that prime action phase. So, like I said, movement action can be used for a handful of things. Your prime action is going to be your main attack and your ultimate attack, which is going to be denoted here by your main attack is just a normal sword. Your ultimate attack is going to be a glowing sword there. So you're going to have 1 main and 1 ultimate attack throughout, and that's what you're going to choose before you enter the quest. Now, with attacks, they're going to be very similar to Tanares Adventures. You're going to roll a d20. You have to match and or exceed the defensive value of the enemy you're attacking. And then if you get a nat 20, a critical hit is going to be plus 3 damage to it. And a residual damage, which they do have, meaning if you miss, if you roll below that defensive value, you will still do a residual amount of damage, which is just 3 damage straight across the board for everyone, 3 damage for residual damage, unless otherwise stated, obviously. All right, now we've got improvement cards, which we've already talked about a little bit. Basically, the very first quest that you play, you're going to be given a improvement card that you go into the first encounter with. But then also, so you start one, it's basically improved passive, is like the beginning improvement card. And then at the beginning of the first encounter, you're going to draw 3 of them from your improvement card deck and pick one and discard the other 2. So you won't be able to pick those ones for the rest of the quest because they will be in the discard pile. But so essentially you start the first encounter with 2 improvement cards. One, if it's the first one, you pick the improved passive, and then one that you picked out of the 3. Now, if it is a sequential quest, you're actually, instead of keeping that improved passive, you're going to choose one of your 4 or 5 improvement cards that you have. You're going to choose one of those, keep that one, and then you're going to take that one into the quest, into the next quest. But you have to discard all the others. Now, the other thing is this big old 2 here. When you complete a challenge within an encounter, a challenge is going to be basically a, kill two enemies with spikes, with a spike trap. That is one that they actually gave an example of, right? So you don't have to do that challenge within the encounter, but if you are able to achieve that challenge, you are going to get coins. Those coins can be spent on improvement cards, and I'll see if you look here, this section underneath enhanced effect here, that is going to be what you add by paying those 2 coins. So it has a base effect, and then you can pay 2 coins to have an enhanced effect through completing challenges within the game. Now we're looking at the villain's turn. So villains, the way that they activate, they're going to have their initiative card. They're going to have a villain card with all of their stats on there. And then they're going to have this See Curse cards. This is basically the AI deck, essentially, where it's going to tell you who they target and how they move, how they do things, and any extra special things that the enemies might have that round. So each time you go through initiative track, that is a round. So each round you're going to draw a new See Curse card all enemies are going to use that See Curse card for that round. So you don't draw all of them individually. One will use it all, which I do like because that just streamlines the process there. Then also you're going to have some elite status villains. Basically, elite status villains, there's going to be a villain modifier deck, and elite status means that you are going to draw a modifier to add on to that, which are basically, as you can see there, if you can, basically it's going to improve the stats of the enemy, and it's going to improve the stats. It might give them an extra ability, just kind of depends on what card you get. And then also the boss cards are going to have their own little perks and everything that they're going to do, so the bosses are going to be a little different as well. Combat, we already kind of went through combat with the dice rolling. As you can see, here's the initiative track that it comes here. We have the See Curse deck there to show what the enemies are going to do, and all enemies use that same See Curse deck card. And then you've got special combat situations, which we don't need to go through, except for death and first aid. So death in this game is not permanent. Well, it can be, but the initial one's not. So whenever a hero gets down to 0 HP, that is a death. But in each quest, you're going to have 2 first aid tokens here, which you can use to revive a hero. It's going to cost the revived hero 2 coins, and going to heal them up to 15 HP. Now, you only have 2 of those. So when a hero dies and you do not have a first aid token, that is when the quest is a loss, and you have to take that L and restart the quest again. And now, talking about the quest and campaign here, this is basically just talking about navigating through the quest. Kind of already talked about this, right? How you set up for it, that you're going to gain improvement cards at the beginning of each encounter. Basically, each encounter is a combat. So anytime, whenever all the enemies are dead, that is going to be the end of the encounter. You're going to check to see if you completed the challenge, gain any coins, and then start the next encounter, which we'll show here. So here's the very first quest here. Encounter 1 and 2 are on this map here, where encounter 3 and 4 are on a new map here. So you might stay on the map for a different encounter. You might go to a different map for the next encounter. But as you can see, I really do like this here. Like, it's super nice and quick. It gives you a little bit of that lore and then puts you right into the encounter and gives you the challenges, any special rules for that encounter. It gives you the quest villains, so you know what villains to put into that deck. Anyways, I think it works out, or I really like how they are doing this. And one of the last things here I want to talk about is difficulty levels. They do have different difficulty levels. They have easy, meaning that you will have 0 elite monsters. If it ever tells you to pick up an elite, you just don't. You don't grab that attack or that villain modifier card. Normal is going to be following the normal rules. Hard is always adding an extra elite monster. Very hard is having 3 elite monsters for every single encounter, whether it says for them or not. Now, because you do have to play with 4 characters, they do have comrades, which is like Tanares Adventures, where it's going to be a simplified version of the hero. Basically what it is your improvement cards. Instead of being able to like have to choose and look at that, each combat role is going to have a couple branches that you could follow. So there's not a whole lot of choosing. You choose which branch you want to follow, and then whenever it tells you, you just get that ability and you go forward. So it makes it a lot quicker and easier instead of having all of the extra cards. And then this is way offside note. Even this work in progress rulebook has an index. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. I'm definitely in the camp with King of Average, where an index is just so nice. When you're trying to find a rule in the middle of gameplay, like the index can help so much. Anyways, so even in this work in progress one, they've got an index. I very much appreciate that. So there you have Tanares Expedition Central Sea. Basically everything that we know up to this point, being the end of October. Let me know your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm hoping I can get a review copy so I can show you guys more of the actual components rather than just talking about it here on the computer. If you want to see any other dungeon crawlers that I am a big fan of, go ahead and click right here, and I will see you later.